Hello, all you scaredy cats and kittens, and welcome to the Two Scaredy Cats podcast, where we talk about all things strange, unusual, and paranormal. We're your hostess with the mostest. I'm Stacy, and unfortunately, Kara's not with us this week. She has been very busy. She was in Dragon Con last weekend for their convention there. In Atlanta, Georgia, taking photos and just scoping it out. And then this weekend, she is in Pittsburgh for Colossal Con East. So she unfortunately will not be with us this week, but I am here and I have two exciting, interesting stories to share with you. But before we get started with all that, I have a couple of interesting little tidbits about some interesting things going on the world right now with some spooky paranormal stuff. By the way, happy spooky season. It's finally officially here now that we're into September. You can start decorating for Halloween. I know I am and am excited. I am also excited for all the pumpkin spice stuff that you can get. I love pumpkin, so I am super stoked about pumpkin spice being out and available on the menus. By the way, if you have not tried Dunkin' Donuts spiced pumpkin donut mini munchkins, they're very good. You should try them. I highly recommend them. Also, their Wendy's will be releasing their Frosty Fright Happy Meals again this year. They have 6 new characters that they are bringing to us. There are the ones that I really want to get. There's a cat one that looks really cool that I want to get, and there is also like a merman, or I guess you would fish type one that I really want to get. Also, there's a lot going on this week, apparently. On Wednesday, which would have been September 3rd, for anybody, since this comes out on the 5th, on September 3rd, part 2 of Wednesday came out. I got to watch part 1 and I'm all caught up. So now I'm ready to watch part 2. I will probably be watching that this weekend. Interesting to note that Lady Gaga is in the second part 2 of Wednesday, so I can't wait to see her character in this. I hear she's really good in it, so I can't wait. Also, in case you didn't know or you haven't heard yet, Lady Gaga has a new song out that is in the show Wednesday. It's called The Dead Dance. It's very good if you haven't had the opportunity to listen to it or to actually see the video. The video that she released, I think it was also on Wednesday to tie in with the release of Wednesday Part 2. The video that she released was actually directed by Tim Burton, who also was the director of Wednesday, the show. So, I thought that was interesting. Also, there's a lot going on Wednesday this week. Also on Wednesday, South Park released their episode about the Labubus. In case you are not up to speed or up to code or have any idea of what these things are, Labubus are these little monster furry key clip things that everybody is like going crazy over, and there's a lot of people out there that claim that they're demonic and that they're actually demons, and that if you possess one, you're gonna have a demon visiting you and all kinds of crazy stuff. But anyway, South Park totally ran with it and nailed it, and it's a very funny episode, and if you haven't had the opportunity to see it yet, I highly recommend it. It's funny because they also talk about tariffs in it and that too, and explaining how tariffs work, which is really funny. But if you haven't had the opportunity, I highly recommend you check out the Labubu episode of South Park. Also, on a note about Labubus, Kara and I were able to get together about, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, because it was before she left to go to Atlanta. We were able to get together and spend a few days together, and it just so happened that while we were together, the little shop that runs the Labubu stuff, they had dropped some new, they have a brand new line that just came out. And Kara was able to go on, and we have 2 mystery Labubus coming to us in October. So we will have to let you know if what's going on with these Labubus, and we'll have to do a reveal of which one we got or whatever when we get those. Like I said, those won't be coming in though until October. So until then, you'll have to sit and wait on pins and needles to see. The new ones are really cool. I really love the colors of the new ones. They're very colorful. They're not like brown and black like the other old ones were. So I'm excited about that. So we didn't get to pick a color. It was just whatever random one they want to send us. So. But anyway, so we're excited about that. So an update on my mom and the alien visitors that she seems to be having that come and visit her at weird hours of the morning. Spent time with her last week, and we were talking, and she told me that her alien friends were back again. And again, it's weird. It's like these two lights that they're not high up in the sky like most of the airplanes and stuff that are in the airspace of where my parents live. They're definitely not airplanes because she has video of it, because they just like kind of sit there, but then they'll move around a little bit, but they don't move like normal aircraft. It's just crazy. You'll have to see the videos. I'll have to post those to our Instagram, and hopefully I can get them on TikTok too this weekend, hopefully sometime. But yeah, it's crazy. So anyway, she was telling me about the aliens and how they were hanging out and watching her the other morning. She said they usually come out about 5 a.m. and they'll hang out and stay there in that area and for about a half hour, and then they, go away and do whatever they're doing while they're hanging out here visiting Earth. Who knows? But anyway, so that's all the news that I have for us for this week. That was a lot. A lot of stuff went on Wednesday, apparently. So anyway, so this week I have 2 stories to share with our listeners. The first story that I have is actually a story from Appalachia. It was about a group of hikers that were hiking in the town of Panthertown in North Carolina. And this is the recount of one of the hikers who was left there by herself while the rest of her group went back to go get the food in a cooler that the other couple had brought with them. But anyway, we'll get into that in a minute. And then I also have a story called The Black Mirror. It's a mirror that was used by the Aztecs to help them communicate with spirit world. So we'll talk about a little bit about that and about how popular this mirror was and what people are supposedly been using it for over the past couple of centuries. So let's get started. So our first story comes to us, like I said, from Panthertown, North Carolina. The story is about a group of friends who are going on a camping backpacking adventure in the backcountry. So there are 4 of them, and it's 2 couples together, and they've decided that they are going to backpack camping for the weekend. So our friends decide they're going to go 5 miles. They were supposed to start earlier in the day, but one of the couples was a little bit late, so they didn't get started until a lot later than what they thought. So they didn't even start until like a little bit before dusk. The other couple finally shows up, and they have this huge cooler full of food that they want to bring with them into the woods. And inside this cooler, I mean, this is crazy. This is insane. So they have like steaks, and they've got snacks in there, and they've got, drinks and stuff like for the whole weekend. And the other couple, by the way, has been doing this for a while now, and they pack very lightly. They only have like their knapsacks and their tent, some food with them, but they don't have a whole stinking cooler. They have it's probably dehydrated food that they have packed in their bag. It's very easy for them to get in and out, and their load is light. It's not a very heavy load. So anyway, so the 2 couples get together, and after the one couple pulls up with this huge cooler, they decide that they're going to leave the cooler back at the car for now, and they're going to go ahead and hike on. They're hiking 5 miles into this backcountry that a lot of people during the night don't go to. It's usually used heavily during the day. There's a couple of beautiful waterfalls in that area. They're also known to have some rock formations there, and people have called it like, the Yosemite of the East. So it's a very beautiful area, but it's also very rugged and very dangerous. So this couple's setting out, it's starting to get dark. They're on the trail and they're walking, and they end up going their 5 miles. Now, the one couple has with them a GPS satellite phone, so they can keep track of where they're going and that. And, they're using a map, obviously. But for the most part, their phones are not working because, you're in the middle of nowhere and you're not going to have a cell tower to ping off of. So they're kind of doing this a little bit blindly here. So they're all together and it's dark. So they decide where they're going to make camp in this like clearing area that they found. Now the area is not totally cleared. It's just like an area where there's not a lot of trees in it, but it's very overgrown with brush and that. So they have to like clear that out of the way so they can set up their tents and stuff and set up like a fire ring. They decide they're going to leave the one girl behind and let her get camp set up while the other 3 go back for this giant cooler, because the 2 guys are going to have to be carrying the cooler and they're going to need somebody else to help, hold the lantern and lead the way. So those 3 go off to go back to the cars to get this ridiculous cooler. So, they're gone and they're off and on the trail and doing that, and they leave the other woman there by herself. So shortly after they leave, she begins to hear strange sounds in the woods. At first, all the crickets and the frogs are croaking and all that, all the insects and stuff are making noises. But all of a sudden, she said, they all stop. And as soon as all the insects stop and the frogs stop croaking and all that, she starts to hear a whistling noise. And this whistling noise sounds like it's coming from, like it's one person, and they sound like they're moving around her in the area that she's in. And it's very unnerving for her to hear this whistling sound. Now, so she's hearing the whistling sound, and then all of a sudden, the hairs on the back of her neck start to raise up. And she could have walked away at this point, but remember, she has no cell service and she doesn't have a whistle or anything. And she was concerned that if she left the area that they were in, they wouldn't be able to find her and she'd get lost. So she decided, like, as you're always told, even, like from when you were little with your parents, wherever you're at, stay in that area. They'll come back looking for you, don't move. So she decided, she's in it to win it. So she's got to stay there. All of a sudden, she starts hearing like hundreds of voices all at once in the air, like above her, just like floating in the air, which is very odd and strange. And around her head, there's like this vortex of voices, and she could hear male voices, female voices, and even little kids. And they're all talking. It's like when you're in a restaurant and you're sitting there and you're taking in and you can hear all the ambient noise all around you. That's basically what she was experiencing. At this point, she starts to freak out a lot. So she decides she's going to sit down next to a tree, and she closes her eyes so she can't see anything, because the rules in Appalachia are that if you can see it, then it must be there. So people are told to, close your eyes so you can't see what it is. Try not to listen to it. Definitely don't respond to whatever it is, because you don't want to know what it is. She's closing her eyes and trying not to figure out, where the source of the voice is coming from. And this lasts for like 20 minutes. Like I said, the others had gone off and they're on this 5-mile hike back to the cars. So after the voices stop, she hears rocks being thrown and she hears her name being called over and over by like different people. But she still doesn't move, and she also does not open up her eyes. Finally, after 20 more minutes of this, of hearing her name called over and over and, hearing rocks being thrown around her, all the sound returns to the area. The crickets start back up. They're chirping again. The frogs are croaking again. She hears all the other insects making noise and stuff, and the birds are, the owls and that are making noises. She begins to finish clearing the area around her and putting up the tents. So as soon as she finishes this up, her husband and the friends have returned. Now, When they come back and return, she does not tell them right away what happened, because one of the rules in Appalachia is you don't talk about any strange thing that happens to you, because if you talk about it, then it's going to make it true or whatever. The takeaway from this story for us is that you should never be going out in the woods at night. Make sure you have a GPS with you or some form of communication that you can reach others if you're ever lost or stuck. And for God's sake, if you hear strange noises or people talking in the woods when you're the only one in the woods, don't listen to it and, just ignore it. Because once they know that you acknowledge it, then all bets are off. And most of the time, you don't know what it is. I mean, it could be a crazy person for all you know. But yeah. I find it real interesting that there are a lot of stories that I came across where people heard somebody saying hi in the woods. And a lot of people replied that could actually be ravens, that they learn to mimic people's voices and they sound like somebody saying hi, which is crazy. I've never heard of that before. But then somebody else pointed out, well, why would you be hearing them at night saying that? Now, during the day, I can understand, but, at night, most birds usually sleep at night. But apparently ravens are very curious birds, and they are smart also. And so they get used to us hearing us talk in that, and that's why and it's easy for them to mimic the word hi. So again, if you're ever out, especially in the Appalachia area, and you hear something in the trees or whatever, don't acknowledge it. If you see something moving or coming near you or saying your name, don't listen to it. Don't acknowledge it. Just keep doing what you're doing. The other story that I have for you guys today is an interesting story that I had never heard of before. But it is called the Black Obsidian Mirror. And this is a crazy story. This is about a mirror that has been used since, back during Aztec times. And it's been used for thousands of years by different people. And so the story starts with an explanation of what this mirror was actually made of. So this mirror was actually made of polished volcanic rock. And it was used for mirror scrying. And that's when people trying to look in the mirror to see the future. And for transportation between worlds is what people claim it was used for. So the mirror was originally used by the Aztecs in Aztecs rituals. And these rituals supposedly involved communication with the spirit world. And this mirror was named for an Aztec god whose name, when translated, means smoking mirror. Now, this mirror is said to have made its way to Europe during the 16th century during the Spanish conquest. And it was stolen by one of the conquistadors that came through. And his name was Hernando Cortez. And him and his men apparently stole the mirror while they were there. And they gifted it either to European royalty or to the church. They're not really sure which one it was first, but it definitely, transpired that way. And eventually it made its way to the Vatican. And once it made its way to the Vatican, that's where things get a little strange, because it makes it to the Vatican, which, keep in mind, the Vatican is one of the most secure places on earth. And all of a sudden, it just vanishes. It goes missing. And everybody's trying to figure out what happened to it, where it went, how could it go missing? Those places like Fort Knox, how could somebody come in there and take it? There are several theories, though, about what happened to the mirror and, where it's gone or where it might be. So some people claim that the mirror was really never lost, but it was hidden in a deeper underground chamber in the Vatican because the church was worried that it possessed a threat to Catholicism. People claim that there were many dark items that were hidden in the bowels of the Vatican, and that only certain elite exorcists were able to gain access to go down there and see these particular items, because they were all cursed items or items that were used for occult purposes. And the Catholic Church felt threatened by these dark reasonings that people were using those items for. So the church kept them hidden away. And a lot of these items have never been cataloged, so technically they don't exist. Or at least that's what the Vatican likes to claim. Now, the second theory, the other theory that's been floating around, is that the mirror was actually left the Vatican and it ended up in the hands of John Dee, who, as it turns out, was the advisor to Queen Elizabeth I. And he claimed that he was an occultist and he liked to do these strange rituals and believed in, some strange things. And he claimed that he would use the mirror to speak to angel advisors and used a truth stone to speak to them, or what people refer to as a black mirror. Now, the mirror that apparently he used still exists today, and it's on display in a British museum. And it's called John Dee's mirror, which apparently was made of the same material as the black mirror that had been floating around for, thousands of years. It was made of black obsidian, and it also, when they dated it, they said it came from Central America. But some people claim that the mirror had a twin, and that the twin mirror is the one that is still hidden in the Vatican today. Now, the problem is that the black mirror had never been cataloged, as I said. So therefore, people claim that it doesn't exist or it never existed. Now, there's also a third and really interesting claim that the U.S. government borrowed the mirror at some point, or they might still have it, who knows. And they used the mirror during World War II to be used for spiritual warfare and remote viewing on their enemies. So I guess the government, was into doing some weird stuff. Let's not forget that this is, Hitler and the First Reich. They were doing all kinds of stuff, and he had the one general that was really strongly into a lot of occult stuff, and they were doing all kinds of crazy experiments. Well, I guess the U.S. government thought that they could use this mirror as a way to spy on Hitler and, his armies, to see what they were up to, and Japan too, I would assume, to see what they were up to, so they knew how to prepare themselves for their attacks and that. That's just, like I said, that's all speculation. Now, do I think this black mirror exists? Sure, why not? Why couldn't it exist? I mean, that would be pretty cool if you could use a mirror to see into the future. Or, like I said in the beginning, the Aztecs said it was like a portal between worlds, and they would use it to go from one part of the world to the other. I mean, could that really exist? I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? So do you think the black mirror exists? Let us know. Reach out to us. Or if you have any other ideas, or if you have any stories about other items that might be in the Vatican that are hidden away that we don't know about. The Vatican is a very interesting place. They have tons of artifacts down there that I don't even think they know what all's down there, honestly. But they've been collecting all the stuff for centuries. So who knows what's down there. I do find it interesting, though, that in order to see a lot of the artifacts that the Vatican have, and they have a lot of artifacts, they've been around forever. In order for people to be able to see these artifacts back in the day, there was a very strict paperwork trail that you had to do in order to even get to be able to be considered to be able to go down into the underbelly of the Vatican to see all the stuff and artifacts and that are down there. Now, in 2020, they actually opened up some of the vaults in that, and we'll let people go and visit that, which is really cool. And I would love to go there and see some of the stuff that they have there. If you're really into all that kind of stuff about the Vatican and all that, Dan Brown has a couple of very good books that are all into like the conspiracy theories of the Vatican and all these secret societies and all that. But I highly recommend those books. They're very good. One's called Angels and Demons, and I can't remember what the other one is off the top of my head. One of them I think is called The Inferno. Check out Dan, him out if you're interested. Like I said, his books are really good. I think that's all I have for you guys today. I think that was a lot. I hope you enjoyed our show today. Please remember to give us a review on Spotify, on Apple. Those reviews really do help our show get discovered by others. And please tell your friends about us. And tune in 2 weeks for another exciting episode of the Two Scaredy Cats podcast. Remember, curiosity didn't kill these two scaredy cats.